Good morning, everyone. It is a brisk morning. If the leaves hadn't started changing already, this cold temperature will definitely help. I've got another seat to sit on. Well, like I said, I don't think I want to go through the entire book of Acts because the point that I wanted to make is we need to be feeling like these early Christians. We covered the introduction. Now in chapter 2, we're going to see where they get the Spirit and how they were feeling. And I'm just going to read one little story out of chapter 3 and cover that today. I'm going to read out of my Bible, not the full King James. Some things are okay. I've learned the Lord's Prayer in King James, but I'm not real good with reading it. It's kind of cold out here right now, so I'm see if I can get through this without going inside. It's in the 30s right now. It got down to close to 30, maybe 2 or 3, something this morning. And it's still not out of the 30s yet at about, I guess it's about 10 o'clock. But like I said, these leaves are going to finish changing this weekend, and the next couple of days it's going to be this way. So I'm in a house, so I'm okay right now. Next week I'll be down in another park about an hour north of, maybe a little bit further, hour north of Jacksonville. It's still in Georgia. That way when I'm done camping there for a week, I can go do my film that I got to film on I guess the 4th or 5th or something, with the first weekend in November. And from that, I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm waiting. I might be able to come back here for a couple of days because I want to be able to take all my camera gear, and I can't take it when I'm camping because I got all my camping gear. So I have to leave something behind. Logistics, it's kind of what you have to think about. And that's kind of what these people had to think about when they were starting to get the message spread. Early on, it wasn't too hard because they were working with the synagogues. Christians in the very beginning were thought to be part of the Jewish sect. That's why some of them tried to impose Jewish law on Gentiles. And then when they were told not to do that, then that kind of started the division. But the key part about it is that when they first received the Spirit, I don't know if you remember when you first received the Spirit, you're full of joy, you're happy. We see in the first story of the healing in chapter 3 that the lame man who's been lame from birth essentially follows him into the temple, and he's leaping and singing. Someone who hasn't walked before is leaping. That's excitement. So are we leaping? Are we excited? There's plenty of going on around the world if you want to focus on it. I'll cover a few things here, but we don't need to be bothered by it. They're continuing to set up. We're not there yet. I see where some Jewish leaders are saying that they're talking to the Messiah. Yeah, I don't think so. I think they're talking to his counter Messiah, the Antichrist. You're either talking to one or the other. But he will come and talk to them, but through the 144,000 he'll talk to them. And when they become Christians, then they can talk to him, but not before. And I see where China is hiring, I guess they're British mercenaries, British pilots, to teach them how to fight American fighters. They're going to come after Taiwan at some point. unless they're nuked ahead of time. And we're the only one that can stop them. We have the most advanced fighter jets in the world. They haven't been tested in battle, though, so we'll find out, or the world will find out soon enough. We don't have any influence on the end times, so I'm concerned that maybe these fighter jets aren't that good, or maybe we're taken out ahead of time. We're still coming up on the election here in the United States. All the preliminaries, the early voting, is setting records for the number of people early voting. And they're all going opposite of our current administration. I keep telling you, something big is going to happen between now and the election, or between now and when they take over, which isn't until January. So they could win all the seats and there could be not a Democrat left in office. And between now and when they're sworn in, something major could happen and they could be under martial law and never allowed to take their seats. How much of it are we going to see? I don't know. But with all this going on around the world, we need to be smiling and happy and having a good time watching the events take shape. So these people can look at us and go, with all that's going on, how can you be happy? There's your opening. You ready to give an account? Oh, that sun's bright. It's coming through the one gap. That's the one thing when you get into winter here on the East Coast, and all these hardwoods start shedding their leaves. You don't have the sunblock, you don't have the shade, but you can see everywhere. Because these leaves make a wall that you can't see past. But once they're gone, you see lakes and buildings and all kinds of stuff you may not have known were there if you're new to the area. It's a fun time of year, but it's cold. I mean, I'm wearing gloves, because it's in the 30s, and I'm seated. It's going to be a cold winter. We're told that by all the farmers, and looking at their signs, the persimmons that they cut open and see the signs of a cold winter. Germany, who's been talking about dumping nuclear power, has said they're going to leave their 3 nuclear plants online through the winter because so many places are being cut. In our Ukraine war, they're not destroying cities, they're not destroying public auditoriums, they're destroying power stations. Russia is. It's going to be a cold winter for them. Hopefully they survive. So, how far are we going? The guessers are beginning to become silent. Because as I told you, it's not a Jewish holiday. We're through tabernacles now, as I'm recording this. The 8th day is gone. We're still here. Now, maybe next year's holidays will mean something. But we'll be gone by then. Because when that starts happening on Jewish holidays, we're in the 70th week. And we'll be gone. So keep looking. We're not far away. Worst case scenario has always been next year. That's the worst case scenario. But you look at what's going on in the world, a World War III scenario could take place any moment. Russia's threatening everybody with nukes. Now, they're using it as a partial bluff, but eventually they're going to have to carry through with it, or nobody's going to believe them. And they're not doing that good with their traditional forces. They're using drones from Iran. They didn't have their own drones, they're using those from Iran, so they're taking help from anybody they can get. Of course, we're still helping Ukraine, which is not helping us any. And they just told the state of Israel that if you start helping Ukraine, that it will definitely go against you and our relationships. Russia's told them that. So step one in the wrong direction leading up to the Ezekiel war. Again, all they're doing is just marching in the same direction that we know that they're going to march. And just like I've said, once you get the middle of the chessboard set up, you can no longer do defensive moves. You got to do offensive moves. And you got to have a backup plan in case they counter that offensive move. Good chess players have at least a half a dozen moves planned ahead. If I do this, they're going to do this, then I'll do this, and then they're going to do this. They have at least a half a dozen. Some of the experts, the world experts, probably have a couple dozen. They played so long. Now, I haven't played chess as a game because I find it, I get bored quickly. And I know there's, countless ways to win, but I get bored. I don't have the expertise to win a good match. Since I know I'm going to lose, it's even more boring. I tried playing against the computers. If I put it on easy mode, where I have a chance to win, I can play that. Intermediate and above, it's not any fun. I prefer more of the action games and the ones that put you in a country or territory that you can explore. To me, that's how I want to play a game, is explore. Because that's what I try to do in real life. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to see in a new heaven and new earth, so I can start exploring. Where's Larry? Oh, he's out somewhere hiking or exploring something. If we can travel anywhere, I might go to another planet. I'm assuming our solar system's gone too, because that's part of the heavens. But maybe we'll have a new one. Maybe we'll have 4 or 5 moons and 2 suns. Maybe the sun color will be, green instead of yellow. The planet will be, blue Earth, and I was going to say yellow water, but that doesn't sound good. The colors may be different. What we see is just a matter of the designer's colors that were presented to us. We should be excited about what's coming. So when we get into the book of Acts again, we're going to start in chapter 2 and go a little bit into 3. We're going to see how they got started. But what I want you to see and what I want you to feel is the excitement. These are exciting times. They're joyous times. Not because of what's going to happen to the world. That's between God and the world. This is not a God-forsaken planet. This is a God that was forsaken by man planet. It's their own fault. They're getting, not that anybody deserves the things that are coming, but they're getting it because, one, they're not going with us in the rapture. The world is being slowly deteriorated to give people plenty of time. The big stuff is not till the end. And even that will gain somebody. Someone will survive, and someone will accept God at that point. So many people driving by this morning. Too many people don't work. And that's kind of the problem we've got right now. That's why we're in trouble in this country and in the world. It's all by design. Sometime shortly, the world powers are going to do something to change everything forever. We're on a downward spiral that I don't think you could stop right now if you tried. Not even our fearless Mr. T and I'm referring to the politician, Mr. T. I don't even think he could stop what's going to happen. I think we're too far gone. Experts on news channels that I watch, not the mainstream channels, but the other channels. Like I like to watch Glenn Beck. He's getting worried. The big guys are the wealthy people. They're preparing for what's coming. Follow their lead. All my farmers are saying store up for a hard winter and store up for a government that's probably not going to be able to help. Hopefully we have money. I mean, I for one survive on mostly Social Security. I have a small pension. Between the two, I do what I'm doing. God takes care of me. What's going to happen when they take it away? Social Security is a dying outflow of money. The big guys don't want outflows of money unless they get something in return for it. And right now, there's people like me that are getting paid to talk against what's going on. They'll shut us up eventually. Or God will get us out of here, or both. So, stay happy, stay joyful. That comes from the Spirit. If you're not feeling that, get in contact with the Spirit, be repentant, and then open. As soon as God gets you in the right place, He's going to want you helping. And that's good too. You can be afraid at first, but go with the flow. And when you start seeing the results, I imagine, I talk a lot about movies, but theater is the same thing. Somebody going up on stage for the first time, knees knocking, shaking, Each time you do it, it will be a little better. I don't know that it ever goes away. In fact, you're better off if you're a little bit afraid, because that helps you to focus. But don't be so afraid that you can't open your mouth and talk. God will help you. If you don't know what to say, just stand there and smile. Somebody will see the smile, and if it's in real life, they'll ask you why you're smiling. New York's been hit by a nuke. Well, I feel sorry for everybody there, but that's another step. Now, they haven't been, but that could be a headline. It's not a good thing. Don't let it immobilize you, though. There are going to be people that need help. Florida, they're recovering from a massive hurricane. There are people that need help. I follow Franklin Graham. Father was Billy Graham, and they've got their, Samaritan's Purse or something, whatever it's called, an organization that helps people. They've been down there helping. But they're talking about Jesus at the same time. Okay? So when the disasters start hitting, if we're still here, find something you can do. If you can't physically go and help, send money. Find a good organization. Be careful of scams. Use a reputable organization. Franklin Graham's organization would be a good one. At least as far as we know. Everyone's human, but I see them doing a lot of good. All right, let's get into our Bible study. I've got very good internet where I'm at here, so I'm putting a little bit better quality videos up. You may not even notice. So I want to notice if yesterday's and today's seem better. If they do, I might try to figure out how to do that. I've been sending everything up at 720. This is going up at 1080. Yesterday's went up at 1080. And like I said, my Bible study will be out of my Bible so I can read it. Sorry, I was stumbling over words yesterday. Like I said, King James may sound good in songs, but they don't talk that way. They never talk that way in Israel. It was written in 1611, commissioned by King James. But they don't talk that way in the Holy Land. And I don't speak Greek. I can speak a little Hebrew, but not Greek. I use a concordance with the King James, and I will quote from King James occasionally. But if I don't know the verse, I practice it. So, all right, we'll be in the New King James. And it's not perfect either. None of the Bibles are actually perfect, because when the Archbishop of Canterbury, I guess, pulled the Bible together and put in chapters, he didn't get some of the chapters in the right spot. And later on, when they started printing the Bible a lot, that's when they put in the verses. They were added. The chapters and the verses weren't there when they were written originally, so they didn't always get them right. Some of the words are not completely translated correctly. None of the gospel is questionable. The main stuff is there. They're just sentences that maybe that doesn't make sense the way it's written, but we still use it. But that's where, if you get into studying, you'll find that maybe the proper word to use actually puts more emphasis. A lot of the Greek words can have like 4 and 5 meanings, depending on how the context is. And we typically have 1 or 2 meanings. So there's some areas where, frankly, you need to put more emphasis on it. Now, the Hebrew is slightly different in the way that it's formed, but it's easy to understand the Hebrew more because we've got proof that goes all the way back, into BC, because of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that it's accurate. Original Hebrew, they didn't have vowels. In fact, if you read stuff like headlines and stuff in the newspapers and stuff, unless it's designed for Americanized Jews, there's no vowels. Street signs, there's no vowels. And you read from right to left instead of left to right. And the ending letter is often different. An N in the middle is going to look different than an N on the end. You get used to it. So you've got another dozen or so letters to learn. It still can be done. Most words are 3 letters. But when you put them together with their supporting adjectives or other words that go with it, it might look like the first word in Genesis. It's Bereshit. Well, the word that we're looking at is Rashit. They put the bear in front of it in the beginning. So they just put it, they do a lot similar to what Spanish does and other languages like that. They read backwards from English. We say Casablanca, or they say Casablanca, we say White House. They're backwards. The modifiers are backwards. They do the same thing in Hebrew. And in Hebrew, they have endings that tell you the gender and the plurality of it. That's where we have Bereshit bara Elohim. Elohim is plural for God. God is actually just El, E-L. Bethel, house of God. So Hebrew is actually easier to learn because I've studied it. Greek's a little bit harder, but as I mentioned in one of my other videos, Greek is spoken throughout the entire Middle East at the turn of the century because of Alexander the Great. He conquered all those countries and gave them Greek. So the apostles, which knew Greek, could easily go spread the gospel. Wasn't God thoughtful in preparing that? Once again, he took something that somebody meant for bad and turned it into good. If your life is not the way you want it, let God turn it into something good. Okay, let's get on to our study. I'm going to go in and warm up because my hands are cold, especially the one holding this camera. Okay, I'm going to be starting in Acts 2, but I'm not going to stay there very much. I'm going to kind of jump around. The key that I want you to see is the Spirit coming on them. In Acts 2, we start in Pentecost. So we're going to see them get the Spirit and how the Spirit coming on them attracted all the people around. They saw him and wondered, how is it I can hear them in my own language? And we're going to see that there's a whole bunch of them there from different areas. And they all understand him. They go, aren't these Galatians? Aren't these Southern people? Or aren't these people from New York? I can't say the accents very well. Accents can tell people where you're from. And they can tell you that they probably don't speak your language. I can say I don't speak that language in 5 or 6 languages, but that's all I can speak. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Je ne parle pas français? No hablo español? So, but I can't speak the language. That's all I can say is I don't speak the language. But they could hear him. Now, the Spirit's doing this, obviously. We can't attempt to copy it, nor why would we? We don't want to do what the Spirit does. We want to allow the Spirit to do what it does best. And if we get in there and start messing with it, then we're going to be dealing with it. Okay, I'm looking. Oh, you see my little bird over here. Where is my camera? There's the camera. There's the bird. He's being quiet. You can hear the bird in the other room. It's a parakeet in the other room. That's a parrot of some sort. And there's like 6 cats here in the house. I'm by myself, so this is my job, is to watch the animals. They've already been fed. I got to do some of the cleanup duties and stuff around. Wash the food bowls already, so we're doing all that. And I've been outside, and you saw me, so I've had to clean up my hat here. But it's still cold out there. It's not cold in here. It's not summer in here, but it's not cold. All right. So let's get into our reading. Like I said, I'm just going to pick out some parts that I want to talk about. Starting in Acts chapter 2, verse 1. When the day of Pentecost had truly come, they were all in one accord in one place. I think that's where God would like to always find us. Wherever we're at, where we're together in one accord. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as if a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. We know when there's a tornado coming, it sounds like a freight train, they say. I haven't ever been close enough to hear one. I've seen them. I've been close enough to see them, but I haven't been close enough to hear them. But one that would get everybody's attention. Everybody that heard this came to see what it was. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, forked tongues. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And that's the key. There are some churches that if you don't have somebody stand up and try to speak in tongues, and if someone speaks of tongues and there's no interpreter, sit back down. There has to be an interpreter. Tongues not just to watch somebody babble. We could all babble with or without the Spirit. But it's got to be interpreted. And it has to be something and someone saying things that are consistent with what's in the Bible. We're going to jump over to Corinthians here in a little bit. I'm going to show you how to control some of this. Okay, so, and they were dwelling in Jerusalem, Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. There's a big trade route went through there. And when the sound occurred, the multiple came together and were confused because everyone heard them speak in his own language. And they were amazed and marveled, saying to one another, "Look, are not those who are speaking Galatians?" Can anything good come out of that area? And how is it that we hear each in our own language? So whatever they were saying, the foreigners could all hear them speaking in their own language. They were probably speaking Galatian, Greek from there with their accents, but they all heard them in their own language. The Spirit was working on everybody. How do we hear in our own language where we were born? And now they're going to give you a list of locations to show you that it wasn't just 2 or 3. Parthians and Medes and Elamites, those dwelling in Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, and Asia. Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, parts of Libya, and adjoining Cyrene, visitors from Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs. We hear them speaking in our own tongues, and wonderful words of God is what they were speaking. It's not edifying the body. Tongues is not appreciated. And whatever could this mean? Some said, they've got to be drunk. Well, Peter gets up, already taken his role as the leader. But Peter, standing up with the 11, raised his voice and said to them, "Men of Judea and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let it be known to you and heed my words. For these are not drunk, as you suppose, since it's only the 3rd hour, 9 a.m. Well, some people might drink at that time, but these were not. But this was spoken of by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men will see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my manservants and on my maidservants I will pour out my Spirit to those in those days. And they shall prophesy, and I will show wonders in heaven above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and vapor and smoke." We're going to get that coming eventually. "The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great awesome day of the Lord. And it shall come to pass that whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." That's the message. That's the message that the Jews of the day forgot, because they got into their own word and they didn't spend much time in the Bible. They didn't have books. They had to be taught by their leaders, and their leaders wandered off. That's why Jesus called them whitewashed tombs. They look nice on the outside in their nice robes and everything and hats, but they were dead on the inside. They weren't carrying around the message that was written to them to carry around. All right. When the Spirit comes on a new Christian, you're excited. Some wander off immediately, some dash in like a bull in a china shop. Be calm, be still. You can still be excited, but there's limits to how much you can do. So don't try to do it all at once. I'm going to turn over to 1 Corinthians chapter 12 initially. "Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I do not want you to be ignorant. You knew that you were Gentiles, carried away to these," turn the page, "to these dumb idols." They worship idols all throughout the conquered Roman Empire. "However, you were led to these idols by the so-called priests of the time. Therefore, I make it known to you that no one speaking by the Spirit of God calls Jesus accursed, And no one can say that Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. You can tell the Spirit by the fruit coming from that tree. There are diversities of gifts, but it's the same Spirit. We, each one of us, have a gift. Maybe you're using it now, maybe you're not. If you have a gift and you're not using it, ask God to reveal it to you, but be prepared. Your gift might be jumping out of airplanes without a parachute and surviving. I don't know what your gift is. You may not know it, but whatever it is, God will make it spectacular if you let him. Don't go jump out of airplanes unless God tells you, not me. I'm just throwing out an example, and I used an extreme example. But whatever your gift is, whether it's speaking in tongues or healing or just comforting, listening. People are better listeners than others. Whatever your gift is, God will use it to its fullest if you let him. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to each one for the profit of all, and that is the key. Not the profit of you, the profit of all. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, gifts of healing by the same Spirit. To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, discerning of spirits. To another, different kinds of tongues. To another, interpretation of those tongues. Got to go together, they don't work. But they're all one and the same Spirit. Things distributed to each one individually as God wills. And that's the key. Now, we want to focus on what these gifts are. These gifts are not supposed to bring glory to you. They're to bring glory to God and to help others. Let's just turn over to chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians here, the love chapter, as it's known. Chapter 13, verse 1. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but I have not love, I have become a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal, or a well-played accordion or bagpipes, depending on whatever kind of music you find annoying. And I'm Scottish, so I know what a bagpipe sounds like. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but I have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but I have not love, it profits nothing. We're told to love God first, and then love our neighbor as ourselves. If you fulfill those two, you fulfill all the other laws. Jesus told us that. Now, what is love? That's one of the problems with the Greek is, like I said, there's multiple words for the same meaning or for the same English translation. Well, let's see what love is. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And love never fails. But whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. When Jesus comes, all the stuff that we're seeing through a smoke glass, if you will, it will all be made known. We'll see it all. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. And I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Well, I guess I should put away my blocks. But when I became a man, I put away my childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know all as I am also known. Now abide faith, hope, and love, these things, but the greatest of these is love. So we need to be excited as we saw those at Pentecost. Oh, and I didn't read from Acts chapter 3, and I wanted to read that. I talked about it, but I want you to see it. I want you to hear it. Because this is what we've got to be doing. If we're not doing these, if we're sitting around in our rocking chair knitting, unless you're knitting clothes for somebody who needs it, if you're just doing it to buy time, you're not helping others and helping God. You're not helping yourself. You need to be excited. I'm back in Acts again, chapter 3, verse 1. Now Peter and John went up together to the temple at the hour of prayer, the 9th hour. And a certain man, lame from his mother's womb, lame from birth, was carried, whom they laid daily at the gate of the temple, which is called the Beautiful. So he's outside the Beautiful gate. You can Google that and know where it is on the Temple Mount. We don't have the temple, but you can see where the gate would have been. To ask for alms to those who entered the temple, who, seeing Paul and John about to go into the temple, asked for alms, for money. And fixing his eyes on him with John, Peter said, look at us. So he gave them their attention, expecting to receive something from them. And Peter said, and this should be a familiar verse, silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give to you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. Well, we've heard where Jesus helped people to walk too. And they were told, some of them were told to be quiet, and they just couldn't shut up about it because they were so excited. This guy here, he hasn't walked since birth. He took him by the right hand and lifted him up, Peter did, and immediately his feet and ankle bones received strength. He hasn't walked all of his life. He should have had atrophy. They should not have worked. This is a miracle. Ankle bones received strength. So he leaped up and stood and walked and entered the temple with them, walking and leaping and praising God. When was the last time you were that excited? We need to be an example. How can you go up to somebody, I'm here to tell you about Jesus. We're just so happy that you're here. Nobody wants that. But if you're leaping and praising God and having a good time, maybe you don't have the material needs that somebody else has, but you're happy. They're not. They're worried about losing their material goods that they have. I don't have a lot. I'm not worried about it. I'm enjoying this week that I'm here visiting at my son's place while he's away. And his roommates are away. Everybody's away right now. I'm inside. For the first week, we're in the 30s since winter. Now, we're going to be in the 30s at night for a few days here, but it'll go away. And we're going to get our, quote, Indian summer, and it'll be hot again. That'll probably happen sometime between now and the middle of November. Just as you think it's going to be cold, it turns hot. So then you got to bring your summer clothes back out for a little bit. In the springtime, it's the reverse. It starts to warm up, everybody goes out and buys plants, puts them in the ground, and then we get another freeze. When you're new to a place, you've got to get familiar with it. All right. Again, I'm going to try to post this at a higher format. I don't know if I'll see the difference. That's why I was happy to do it at the other format. But as long as I have good, strong signal here, because I'm in town, I'll do that. I'm glad that I'm still able to post these here. I'm trying to use Telegram. That's a cat jumping up on the bird cage or landing on it from one of its perches. They can't get into it. That's good glass around that cage. He's being quiet. Normally he squawks. Parrots make annoying noises sometimes. And this is not a talking parrot. You got to get one of those big cockatiels and those big multicolored ones that you can see. These are all taken out of nature and brought in and domesticated. I was listening to some talk on YouTube. Some of them can carry on a full conversation, it seems like. Of course, they're mimicking, they're not thinking, but they have a certain vocabulary. Dogs can have pretty good vocabulary, 30 or 40, 50 words, something like that. Cats actually understand more words. They choose to just ignore us. Okay. A lot of our predictors are quiet. But don't condemn them. We all want to see Christ come. The minute he comes and we're out of here, there's going to be a lot of suffering. So don't wish it. Hope for the strength to endure until he does. And then pray for the world as we're leaving. Pray for the world, because that's when hell is going to be released. Not figuratively, but not literally, figuratively, I guess is what I want to say. That's a way of talking. All right. Till we meet in the clouds. It's got to be fairly soon. Some stuff is just, if you ever watch a cat, and I'm getting a chance to see that a lot here, they take a glass and they're just kind of nudge it until it gets right to the edge and then it falls. They love that. It's just kind of playing with it up until it falls. And then when it falls, they've created chaos. Yeah. All our glasses are sitting at the edge. This is crystal light, by the way. Be ready. Don't go, oh, these predictors don't know what they're talking about. He's not coming back for 1,000,000 years. I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing. That's exactly what Satan wants you to do and to think. No, they tried. But I'm telling you, it's not tied to a Jewish event, and I'm still saying that. The first rapture is tied to Satan deciding when things are ready to start. And things are going to go bing, 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 fast. The seals, the trumpets overlapping, happening very quickly. The temple can be built now. They have their anointing water. They have everything to go in it. They just need Iran to go bye-bye or to give in. Things are going to pop fast, but we're going to be out of here. And we're going to go fast too. So be ready. God bless.